I love making software. I love making software because when it's great, it becomes truly valuable for people. It solves our problems, it brings us joy, and generally makes everything work. Out of all the things you could design or improve, the potential of software is unmatched because of its ubiquity. As creators of software, we don't care to make it great because it's fun to create or because we want to produce artifacts that we're proud of. We make it great because of what it does for everybody else. Because good software is a conduit for a human experience. Many of you in the room have the privilege of getting to make decisions about how software works. Every day you make decisions that affect millions of people. And we're in a special moment where technological innovation is outpacing our ability to apply it. There are new AI experiments, demos, papers, and products every week. From your process to tools to solutions, we have the opportunity to rethink how everything works. I know there's uncertainty around the role of design in the future of software creation. But I think that we get to focus more than ever on the mission behind our work and the core problem we're trying to solve. We get to remind ourselves that technology is not useful on its own, but becomes useful when applied. And in any future process or tools or job titles or any way of working, if you can take that fundamentally optimistic position and see how all the things people use and interact with could be better, then you'll be a designer. My name is Henry, and I lead the design team at Perplexity. We built a new way for people to get information by creating what we call an answer engine. In basic terms, you can ask any question in your own words and get the right answer immediately. Our goal was to take something that was previously impossible and solve that in a way that felt so simple and obvious the first time you use it that you could never imagine it working another way. For me, that's the high bar of consumer product design that we have to meet. In order for this all to work, and to work quickly, we leverage a lot of AI. But we don't focus on the AI, rather we focus on what we can do now for the user because of AI. And I'm going to talk about what we've learned. For most of us here, our goal is to figure out how do we apply AI to the problems that we're working on. AI can do things that felt impossible not very long ago, but it must be used thoughtfully for there to be impact. We all have to understand the power, the limitations, and the trajectory if we're going to make real advancements. Because the reality is, your entire product or process might be worth changing. And so you have to think, if I had to solve this exact same problem today from scratch, would I approach it differently? Well, could you make it faster, or more powerful, or more engaging? Now, all around you, there are things that may feel solved, but could you do it better if you did it differently today? In building Perplexity over the last year and a half, I've noticed a few different themes around how we collaborate, how our output has changed, and what it's like to build a machine. The way that we work is evolving. The collaboration process between designers and engineers has become less of a handoff and more of a conversation. Due to designers' coding, code generation tools, and prompt engineering, the main focus has become less about how we'll build it, and more of an ongoing evaluation of quality. Is this good yet? How can we mold it together? Rather than handing off outputs from our tools, we're a lot more focused on just making a thing great for our users. For every designer on our team, our output has exploded. This is due to a combination of a decentralized process and our full embrace of every new tool. Product designers can write more code with less ability as we prototype and explore. And our brand team can rapidly find new ways for us to express ourselves. We've generated production code, brand elements, videos, images. We even made a podcast. What I've learned is that if you give somebody with great intuition the ability to will anything into existence, you get magic. Solutions that were difficult or impossible to scale before are suddenly available to you. Consider what you can do differently. You can generate things, you can summarize, organize, translate, or repackage information. I'm going to just give some random examples. Here's a piece of information. I'm sure everyone here immediately knows what this means. And if you don't, well, that's the problem. Because everybody has different context. And it turns out that there are many ways to represent or explain the exact same idea. In this case, we're just talking about acceleration. With AI, you can take information and reorganize it. You can easily present the same concept in any way, and you can let the user define how they want to see it, either by expressing a preference or by sharing what they already know. I'm a visual learner, or I have a PhD in physics. If you're building a product to help people learn, you can take any concept and adapt it to each person exactly how they need to see it so they can understand it. You could make a video game where every character you interact with has the capacity for infinite conversation and a real voice. In the past, if you wanted to do this, you would have to pre-plan every conversation tree and create recordings of all the outcomes. You can make an audiobook product where instead of listening to one voice switching around each character, every character could have their own voice, bringing the book to life in a totally new way, like this.
You. Jacqueline shook her head slowly.
You don't understand or you won't. Simon is my world.
Love is not everything, mademoiselle, Poirot said gently. It is only when we are young that we think it is.
You could decide that for your brand, you want to build around an aesthetic that would have been previously impossible to scale, like oil paintings. Or what about animated oil paintings? Another major thing I've felt is that we work by building machines. Everything we're creating is fully dynamic and non-deterministic. And what this means is that every time you use it, you get a different outcome. Every user is having their own experience, and all you can do is create this machine that is right most of the time. And the best way to make something like that great is to start building it and using it and talking about it. You can't follow a traditional process of thinking through everything ahead of time. You have to start by making something very simple and molding it until it's valuable. In order to understand, I think, some of the major software design challenges with AI, it helps to look backwards. In the last 10 years, it's gotten easier and easier to build new features on a permanent roadmap. With better tools and abstractions, design happens faster, code is easier to write, and ideas are easier to share. But at the same time, there's been greater polarization and appetite for complexity. Different generations of users coexist while everyone uses more and more software. Some may have really sharp software skills where they move through screens as fast as they can think, not really reading anything, while others won't click on an icon if there's no label next to it. So designing for this is all about complexity management. You have to maintain focus and hierarchy and capability while constantly adding new features. It requires a conviction about the purpose of your product, and then you use the UI to express that visually. I think Figma is a perfect example. It has a massive set of features, and it's really powerful, and it gets more powerful like every week. So if you're designing something like this, somehow it needs to feel focused and palatable forever. A very different challenge is entirely personalized experiences. Rather than user-facing complexity, the complexity comes from creating the personalized nature. This is all the engineering behind the scenes to show the user exactly what they want to see. We're making products that feel simple for each individual, even though they're not. Every social product, feed, notification system, they're all powered by machine learning. It's just guessing what to show each person. So as a designer, the challenge is to create a product experience that's designed for the network. You can't look at millions of screens, and everyone has their own preference. So you have to guide ranking algorithms with principles and metrics while trying to approximate what a good experience is and knowing that it can't even be good 100% of the time. When it comes to UI, you have to design these bulletproof stencils that will kind of always look good no matter what the content is. If you're designing a feed that has images in it, and let's say a user can upload any image ever created, well, how do you make that look good all the time? What if there's text or even markdown? You have to create all these UI rules that will protect that consumption experience. AI into software brings very new dynamics, but I think it kind of has the strengths and weaknesses of both the things I just mentioned. With AI, you can suddenly take this approach where you compress user-facing product complexity into simple interface patterns. The user can take a simple action like pressing a button or typing into a box and execute actually a really sophisticated task. So you get to hide away the complexity by leveraging probabilistic systems. I'm going to give an example. This is a photo of just some random guy. And I want to put a cowboy hat on his head. In the past, you kind of had to know the right array of tools and techniques to do this if you wanted it to look real. These actions, they use best guess metaphors like lasso tool and scissors and paint. And if you're able to do this, obviously it's quite a powerful skill. But with AI, I can kind of just like say what I want it to do. Put a cowboy hat on this guy. And there you go. I use simple language with a normal UI pattern, and it just happened. We're taking familiar-looking UI, but leveraging it to do a huge array of complex things behind the scenes. We can provide the same power of a complex product, but present it in a more colloquial and focused manner. We have interfaces that are great at certain tasks, and we should use them as needed. There's a lot of familiar UI to people. We just need to show it at the right time. Like if you need the user to provide a date, use a date picker. We don't want to overload concepts like chat. While chat may be perfect for many needs, it's not magically better than other interactions. I think interfaces have gotten progressively more abstract over time, but I think this is okay. Because people actually recognize anything familiar, shapes, colors, language, whatever they are. If there's hierarchy and familiarity, people will use it in a way that worked well for them in the past. This is why it's very difficult to bring novel interaction design to a mass market. Because people are going to use what they've seen before. They're going to understand that easier. And so what we have to do is make things feel extremely obvious, even if it's doing something that was impossible only like a month ago. The challenge of something that appears simple but is not actually simple is that often that means the outcome is going to be very unpredictable. It might not even work every time, but when it does work, it's amazing. And although we can and we will put AI into everything, that means our software will become this cascade of black boxes. And if we remove all that user-facing complexity, then inevitably we'll take away their ability to do precise actions, or at least the perception of precision. But ultimately, I think products that feel focused will be more successful. So the challenge for us is how do we guide people through that? How do we teach people about precision using simple interface patterns? We need to balance the needs of someone who's looking at it for the first time and someone who's seen it 1,000 times. And most importantly, I would say that if you can get somebody to try it once and have a good experience, then you can expand from there. I'll quickly talk about how we applied some of this to building Perplexity. Our purpose is to improve the ways in which people acquire and share information. We want to make retrieval, discovery, and synthesis and sharing feel faster, more intuitive, and more automated. We can make it easier to learn by synthesizing and presenting things in a way that works best for each individual's needs. We can make it easier to package and reorganize information when you want to share it. There have always been 4 principles that have guided every decision, from product roadmap to design, and of course, how we leverage AI. First, the most important user experience is speed. People think quickly, and the more they use your product, the faster they'll want to go. And while I'm definitely referring to technical speed, I also mean just the flow of the product. We want to put low cognitive load on the user by showing them the least amount of UI at once, while still making sense. We want to reduce the decisions and click count to help them get actions done. We want to make sure that you can sort of squint at the screen and still flow through the product. Because I think the best products have almost a gravitational pull to them. You can't really use them the wrong way. You just sort of flow through them effortlessly. Most products are either entertaining, exploiting something you need, or just useful. Perplexity has to be useful. Our product has to be something that you reach for every day. That's the bar. And when you're building something from nothing, it requires that kind of self-awareness. Did we make something better than the alternative? Do I actually need this thing, or am I just proud that I made it? If we deleted it, would anybody care? Our desire to build an information product that feels trustworthy has influenced pretty much every decision we've made. I think this is very directly expressed in our Pro search. An important decision we made was to show sources for every piece of content you read. We do this because it makes the product better. What is the AI actually doing? Where is this information coming from? Not only does this lead to more robust information, but it's an honesty that establishes trust with the user. And finally, it doesn't really matter what you think is important if you can't do it consistently. We have to be fast, useful, and trustworthy every single time you use it. The reliability is what builds fandom. We started figuring out our product by just building it. First, by using a bot in Slack and Discord. We never really set out to do anything in particular other than just try to get something working and kind of make it better from there. One of the observations was, compared to how a search works, where technically a search can find nothing, we saw that it always just answered your questions. Every time, no matter what you asked, it answered your questions. And so then all we had to do was make it more right more often. And building our product then came from just focusing on that. Well, what would make the best answer experience? This sort of simple focus helped us keep going. One of the most fundamental decisions we made was to not build a chat. A chat product has its place, and there's truly nothing fundamentally wrong with it. But for us, we wanted to streamline every possible aspect of the experience of getting an answer. The concept of a conversation actually has all this extra cognitive load. Who am I talking to? Do I start by saying hello? For us, we thought that the fastest experience we could provide is one where the user is just making a request and having it delivered. It should essentially be very utilitarian. And any extra word or pixel on the screen that isn't your answer is wasted. Here's the first mock-up I made. I know it's beautiful. We started by building a simple web app, hammering out that core experience of just question to answer, completely focused on making it a little bit better every day. It was scrappy, slow, ugly, but somehow it was still useful. And at this stage, that's really all that mattered. We learned a lot by obsessing over our principles while building something that we just wanted for ourselves. A product experience where you could put anything in, a question, a keyword, a block of code, a file, an image, or even your own voice. And the output would be everything you need. A text answer with sources backing it up, and images and videos to watch. We wanted to build something that could just help people learn in their own way. Technology is not useful on its own. We have to make it useful and help fit it into people's lives. And to me, design is the pursuit of making all the things that we interact with more valuable to us. And if you're the kind of person who sees all the ways in which everything around you could be better, more than ever, I think we're empowered to make that true. Great design is available to us. We just need to make it happen. Thank you.